if you're wondering where I've been, I grew a baby. Yeah. Well, I'm pregnant. That still feels weird to say because we still haven't told people. Almost 2 weeks ago, I found out that I was pregnant on Mother's Day. Even though I was late, I didn't necessarily think that was out of the norm. But I decided, you know what? I might just like pick up some pregnancy tests on my way home. But like, I'm still not super pressed about it. Like, you know, I can wait until tomorrow. I'll just give it another day is what I said. So I told my husband, and he was working that day on Sunday in the first half of the day. So when he got home from work, we were like, we should do something. What do you want to do? Do you want to go out to eat? And I was like, well, it's Mother's Day, so I feel like everything's gonna be really packed and we don't have a reservation. And so we were like, oh, maybe we'll go bowling. And then I said, well, let me do this pregnancy test first. So I took one of the pregnancy tests. It was the kind with the lines. So, you know, there's a control line and a pregnant line, and they sort of fill in from the pregnant line to the control line. So immediately the pregnancy line was like very, very dark, and the control line was pretty light. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, because, you know, they kind of say like a COVID test, any line in the pregnancy line is pregnant. It's not like how dark is it? It's like any amount of anything there means pregnant. But nobody had said what happens if the pregnant line is super dark and the control line is super light. Because they do say if the control line doesn't show, something's faulty. So after 3 minutes, he was like, that's been 3 minutes. And I came out and he's like, what does it say? And I was like, I don't know. So I showed it to him and I was like, it looks like I'm pregnant, but I don't really know. So immediately I like get out my computer and I'm Googling to try to like see if anybody else has had this happen and whatever. So something came up called the dye stealer. This phrase kind of like, I saw it a couple times when I was doing my Googling. And so what a dye stealer is when the pregnant line is so strong that it basically like steals the dye that would have been in the control line into the pregnancy line, that there's so much of the hormone that it's testing for that it's just like overwhelmed and it takes all of the dye. I had found a Reddit thread where a guy had showed a very similar pregnancy test that his wife had taken, and he was like, same thing as me. He's like, what does this mean? We're very confused. They had also struggled with infertility, so they were like, we don't want to get our hopes up. And literally everybody in the comment section was like, this is pregnant, like this is positive, she is pregnant. And so I was like, okay, well, Reddit says that this is a positive test. But that wasn't enough for me. So I wanted to take a second test, but I had just peed. I didn't really have to pee. And they say you shouldn't chug a bunch of water right before you take a pregnancy test because it dilutes the amount of hormones and all that stuff. So like you really don't want it to be like a chug and pee situation. So we were like, do we go bowling? Do we go out? What do we do? And I was like, well, I kind of want to like hang around and like sip on a little bit of water and see what happens, like take another test. And also like it feels wrong to go bowling right now. A little while later, and I think also because I like became very nervous, I kind of had to pee not too long after, so I went and I took another test, and this time it wasn't quite as, it was much more even. It was still heavier on the pregnant line than the control line, but it was not the same. And so after 3 minutes, I came out and I was like, I'm pregnant. And immediately I was just like in complete disbelief. It's not that I wasn't happy, but I just felt like, this is wild. Like, what are we gonna do? So we decided we were gonna, it was maybe like 3:30 in the afternoon. We decided we were gonna go to a place close by, a restaurant that we like. And you know, it was kind of the in-between, but after Mother's Day brunch and lunch and before dinner time, even like an early dinner. So we were like, maybe we can get a table. We had a backup plan because I was like, I hate showing up places knowing that we might not get a table and then not having a backup plan, and we have to stand there and figure out like, what are we gonna do? So anyway, we had a backup plan. We went, they had a table for us. So we sat down and we were just like enjoying ourselves, having a nice time. And I just kept being like, what is, just in disbelief, like literally like that, not smiling, but not like sad, just like, what? I can't believe this. I can't believe this, just over and over. And my husband thought that it was very funny and sweet. And of course he was just like pumped. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much to figure out. There's so much to do. There's so much I don't know. And he's just like, yeah. So that was the day we found out. The next day, I called the doctor's office to try to make an appointment. Now here I am, never pregnant before, generally knows some stuff about like what not to eat, not drinking, not smoking, like the obvious stuff. But like, I know there's a lot of things I don't know. I just kind of thought they'd be like, oh great, first time pregnancy, come on in. Yeah, no, they were like doing the math and then they were like, okay, well, we'll see you around 8 or 9 weeks. And I was like, okay. So I had my appointment scheduled. It's a little bit before 9 weeks for me. I've just been figuring it out. I've been doing a lot of Googling. There's only one friend that we have told, and the only reason we told her was because she has had a baby and I needed like advice from her about doctors and this kind of stuff. So it felt like I can't ask anybody, I can't tell anybody, because of course, even still at this point, like we don't know what's gonna happen. And I'm still like, am I pregnant? Like, is there something in there? I don't know. And it's crazy. So that first week, I was just overwhelmed, like very stressed, very overwhelmed, just feeling so much weight and pressure. Again, not having anybody tell me like what I should and shouldn't be doing, all of that kind of stuff. And the added layer for me is that my sister is also having a baby, her first, and I felt guilty in a sense that I didn't want to eclipse her joyous time. She is my older sister. She's my only sister, my only sibling, first baby on our side and first baby on her husband's side. I wanted this time to be special and exciting for her, and I felt bad about having to tell her that I'm also pregnant and like take away from her time. I felt nervous about telling our parents. My parents are gonna be in town when I'm around 10 weeks, and that's when we're gonna tell them, but that also made me nervous that it's still early, and in another circumstance, we wouldn't have told anyone quite so early, but if presented with the opportunity to tell them in person, that's what we want to do. And then my husband's family lives in Hawaii, and we will not be seeing them anytime soon. So I feel like if we're gonna tell my parents in person, we should give his parents the benefit of finding out first. So I'm like, that's even earlier than you know, the 10 weeks that we're telling my parents. So all of that was really weighing on me, thinking about travel plans that I have upcoming, figuring out family visits for the holidays. It was just very overwhelming. And also very weird to just like show up for work and people are like, how was your weekend? And I was like, oh, it was chill. Did you do anything fun? Nah, we just went, you know, that place that we like up the road. It's like very, very weird. At the end of the first week, I kind of came down off of all of the stress, and it was actually really helpful. My husband, you know, when I was thinking about like the timing and the telling and like all of these things, he kind of said like, if everything goes to plan, this baby is coming, regardless of how convenient or inconvenient it is. And so that kind of like put it back into perspective for me that like, it really doesn't matter if anybody's upset, if anybody's whatever, it doesn't matter. And all we can hope is that people are excited for us the way that we hope they will be. My one friend who had given me a little bit of, she had given me some help with some of the more medical side of things. She also had like a very unique pregnancy story. And so she had also, I was sharing with her some of my worries and fears and all of that. She had also said like, well, if you're worried about your sister, like, don't you think this is actually a perfect experience to go through together and something that can bring you closer? And I was like, yeah, that is also very true. Like, I've been so worried about usurping her spotlight or like taking attention away from her that I didn't think about it being an experience that we can relate to each other and be supports to each other. So that also helped. Week 2 of knowing that I've been pregnant, however, has been terrible for other reasons. I have been feeling so unwell. I have not thrown up, but I have been nauseous and generally unwell for most of my waking hours for the past week. Really strong food aversions, struggling to be interested in eating, also like very lethargic, really tired, like really slow walking. And so that's also not helped that like I haven't felt as able to kind of like get out and move around and move my body, because usually that helps me when I'm feeling anxious or whatever. Yeah, I've just felt very unwell this week. And it's also like my body is starting to change in ways that I'm really noticing. I've like had hot flashes in the middle of the night. Things are just more uncomfortable. Luckily, I've been drinking some like ginger turmeric tea, which has seemed to help a lot with the nausea and also just like general malaise. So the past couple days, I've actually been doing a lot better in that regard. I feel like I can at least temper some of that like ill feeling and like be present, because I was also like, how am I gonna go into work? How am I gonna see friends and like look like I'm fine? Because we're not telling people yet. So the past couple days have been not as bad, but yeah, the beginning of this week, most of this week, I was just like really unwell, really struggling to find anything that I wanted to eat. Also with that is like not a desire to cook. So I've just been kind of like scrounging and not eating very nutritious food. So that also doesn't help with like the lethargy. Yeah, it's been a struggle. I am leaving in a couple of days to go visit my sister and to go to my college reunion. And I'm already a little bit nervous about how I'm going to get through both of those activities without spilling the beans that I'm with child. I feel like it'll be easier at my reunion. Like I haven't been drinking this entire year in the first place, so like I'm not nervous about that so much. The friends that I'm gonna be seeing at reunion are not people that I like see super frequently, so nobody's gonna be like, that's really peculiar, Julia, don't you love sushi and now you refuse to eat the raw fish? Like, that's not gonna happen. But my sister does know me a little bit better, and I'm a little bit nervous that she's gonna be like, oh, that's weird, or like I'm gonna bring my ginger tea with me and she's gonna be like, oh, why are you drinking ginger tea? Like, I don't know. She might not even do any of that, I don't know. But it's gonna be weird. I'm also kind of nervous about flying, just like with the nausea that I've been having. I wear a mask on airplanes still because I think people are disgusting. So I'm like, am I gonna feel really sick wearing my mask? And I mean, obviously I could just take my mask off, but like I also want to be careful and cautious about my health right now. So I don't know. I'm still a few weeks out from my appointment, my first appointment with the midwife. So yeah, it's just a very weird time for me. And like thinking about, we have a 2-bedroom condo. The second bedroom is currently my office, which will become the nursery. So it's like, we have to figure out all of that, but also like, where am I gonna work when I work from home? It'd be a little bit different if my husband had a regular 9 to 5, because I could, you know, I could use the kitchen table as my workspace or the bedroom as my workspace. Like I could figure that out, but he has a kind of weird schedule. So like some days he sleeps in the morning. So I couldn't be in the bedroom, like set up a desk in the bedroom. But then if I'm out here on a call and he wakes up at like 10 a.m. or something and has to come get coffee and I'm on a call, it's like, there are all these little pieces that are just like, it is my nature to try to have answers to everything. And I simply will not have answers to most things at this, at this stage. Yeah, I think my due date, based on my calculations, is January 12th. The doctor will tell us if we are right about that. That's all I've got right now. Oh yeah, also like daycare is super expensive. And like nobody puts their prices on their websites. They make you call them. And I'm like, well, I'm not ready to call you. I'm not gonna come in for a tour until you tell me what your cost is. Oh, there's so much to figure out. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just going to keep myself as healthy as possible. Hope that everything goes well and the baby that's growing inside of me is healthy and safe.